Welcome to Movie Monday, of which we, after a long-awaited, I guess, time, we have finally watched Jodhaa Akbar. What can I say about this film? I watched it a really long time ago. Like, I didn't even remember what year it came out. But I probably did not watch it the same year it came out, but...
2008.
Oh. Maybe I did see it the year it came out. I don't remember. To say the least, like, I had remembered, like, some aspects about the film that I liked and everything, so... I was like, why not? Let's watch it. I know it's one of the few Bollywood films that I think I actually enjoyed watching, so it's gonna be interesting seeing what you guys thought of it too. But I will now open the floor.
Okay.
I will start by saying that it was better than I thought it was going to be.
Okay.
That's all I wanted. Really. I mean,
I do think
whatever you want afterward. But that
it
was
definitely
all I
helped that we watched this over 2 days.
I think I know where the quote-unquote intermission was supposed to be now that we watched
Yeah,
the
I think
whole
so,
thing.
too.
Yeah, I think so too.
I think it was after.
It was not obvious though.
I think it was after he like sends her away.
Yeah.
Yeah.
I
Yeah,
think so.
because there's this like kind of weird cut like after that. So yeah,
Yeah, it just kind of cuts to black and then it's like
for like half a
kind
second,
of
and then
a
it's
sad
something else.
montage.
Yeah.
Yeah. Sad montage.
That's kind of what it is.
Yeah, kind of.
Yeah.
Yeah, so like if I had to like watch this all the way through, I don't know, like it's hard to tell, because like the fact that it actually was like, you know, in Hindi with English subtitles meant that like I kind of had to pay attention. I couldn't just zone out, so because it's like, wait, I'm completely lost on what happened. So, but at the same time, like, you know, I don't know, I was at least I was willing to care. I guess was the framework of it. So,
You didn't choose a bad Bollywood film for you guys to watch.
okay.
Yeah, this is a good foray into Bollywood films, but like only
I don't know if it's. I don't know.
this
if
specific one, and that's it.
Because
I don't know.
the broad tropes that I know, that's what I was worried about, was like really over the top, like in an over dramatic way, not a funny way, right? And like,
yeah.
especially in terms of like the songs or whatever, like I would, because you know, I mean, this might be more of an American thing also, but just like, you know, oh, it's gonna be like characters like singing over like a pop track or whatever, and I'm just gonna be like, but like, no, it was mostly like, well, it was kind of like, well, my brought the term up earlier, but it's mostly diegetic, like, or even it's like pseudo diegetic, where I don't even know if that's a real term. It's like it starts off as fully diegetic, but then like some extra instrumentals get added in or whatever. But even if it's not, like it is very much like traditional sounding, so that helps.
I think
It
like
kind
90
of matches the movie and the setting
Yeah.
and stuff.
Yeah, like 90% of the like songs are just hymns.
Yeah.
So
Yeah.
that's kind of interesting.
Yeah, and yeah, so that helps. And this is gonna be a weird comparison. So to me, this movie is like a combination of the Ten Commandments and Romeo and Juliet.
That is a very weird comparison.
Okay, so here's what I mean by that. So, okay, the Romeo and Juliet sense is that, of course, there's like, here you have two groups of people that don't like each other, but you have this marriage or whatever. Now, it's kind of the opposite of Romeo and Juliet, where Romeo and Juliet is like, the two groups hate each other, they don't know about the marriage, and the marriage is like, oh, we're so in love or whatever, right? Where this is like, they don't like each other, they make the marriage happen because they think it will make things better, and the people don't like each other at first, right? It's sort of opposite, but it's a similar rough concept, right? Of like bringing groups together through a marriage love situation. So, and also just sort of like the dialogue, and again, this might be just because it's like translated and subtitled, but the dialogue feels a bit kind of like, it feels kind of like that, where it's like that sort of era of stuff. You know what I mean? Or it's very much like, I'm describing what's happening and I'm describing how I feel. You know what I mean? It's kind of like that. So, I don't know, that kind of reminded me of that aspect of it. And then the Ten Commandments part of it is that, like, it's this kind of big, epic scale, like, see, it's kind of like, I don't know, like, historical is the wrong word because Ten Commandments is not historical, and mythological is the wrong word because this is not mythological, but you know what I mean? It's kind of similar in that sense. Like,
It's...
I don't know.
I think I understand what you're trying to
Like,
say.
from, like, an aesthetic viewpoint of, like, kind of an older time, and, like, it's a really kind of big scale, there's a lot of people, a lot of big epic sets, and, like, you know, it's 3 hours long. And, you know, it's...
You know, when you were describing that, I was thinking of, like, isn't this kind of like Lord of the Rings, but just focused on Aragorn and Arwen, and, like, that's the movie?
I don't know.
Also with the 3 hour long thing?
Sure.
I guess you could go that angle.
Yeah, I don't know. It's like, so... yeah, it's kind of interesting. Okay, so... I think the best thing about this for me is like this kind of set design and like the scope of everything. Like it does, like, it's visually it's you know, oh, it's like an interesting. I mean, I'm sure. Well, I don't know, you know, 1500s Indian culture, so I can't, you know.
I wouldn't be able to tell you
Right.
either because this is
But it looks cool, so like, you know, okay,
Yeah.
fine. And, like, just, like, for example, the battle in the beginning or whatever, it's just, like, there is a lot that's there. It's a big scope of things. There's a lot of people, and they got a lot of stuff happening or whatever. So, like, that aspect of it's, like, impressive. To me, I really only have, like, 2 things that I'd point at as being, like, kind of weird. And we talked about this earlier.
Yeah.
Oh, the slow editing?
Yeah, well, okay, so it's especially the worst of it is in that first battle, where it just feels...
I feel like everything else kind of, it's like normal.
Yeah.
But that first battle, it just kind of draws itself out, and you're like, why is this really didn't have to be
it's
as
like they're
long.
holding on, like, oh, look at this epic shot, and it's like, it's just a dude, like, hitting someone. Like it's like, you know.
It's also weird because, like, it's in the beginning, but it doesn't really start the story. I mean, it kind of sets up, like, Akbar, but that's it. Like, it went on for...
I mean, Akbar himself only really does, like, one thing, and it's at, like, the end of the battle, so...
Yeah, so I'm just like, they could have technically cut it, and then just started with, Jodhaa's half of it, because, like, her introduction is a little bit more interesting.
Yeah. So...
Or they could have started it with, like, him, like, just throwing the sword away to, like, not behead the king.
Yeah.
Yeah, even then, though, like, I mean, I guess you could see, oh, it's showing his character that he, like, you know, doesn't... It's different or whatever. But even then, it's not like you need... Because that comes out later, right? So you don't really need to see that at all, so... But yeah, so that was just kind of a little off. And then, like, for example, the sword fight at the end, there was also that kind of... The editing, I think, was a bit better, was a bit faster, but even then, a kind of slower editing on that fight was actually okay. Because it's not... It's more of, like, you know, here's an intimate one-on-one fight that's more about, like, the individual stakes and the tension. Or whatever.
Yeah.
So... And actually, that fight, I actually kind of like that fight, because, like, they both were kind of, like, not that great. like they both kind of flailed around and fell over and, like, weren't the best. And I'm like, okay, you know, it felt like...
realistic.
Yeah, so... that works. But okay, the other thing, though, was that just, like, they kept... Well, in the battle and fights, but even in other stuff, too, like, they were adding in, like, sound effects that were, like, really obviously out of place and weird.
Like the thumpings.
There was thumpings and, like, sword swooshes that were, like, okay. So, yeah. And again, it wasn't mixed that well. Like, you could very obviously tell it was edited in, like, on top. So, that was...
Oh my god, can I just say that I really like that, you know, that dramatic track that happens whenever something bad happens, and it just like twice? In a very weird, comical way. I always enjoy hearing it. And I got a little chuckle out of it.
Yeah, and, like, there's some moments that are, like, kind of unintentionally funny.
Yeah.
Like, the whole moment where, like, they really fall in love or whatever, and it's supposed to be this sort of, like, romantic thing with, like, the song in the back or whatever. It just was kind of funny for some reason. I don't know why. I just found it kind of, like, weird. And, like, there's one part where I think it's, like, trying to say that, like, he's, like, singing a part to her or something, but, like, his mouth is not lined up with the song. Like, the words are not, like, lined up with him speaking, so I'm like, wait, is this what he's doing? It's just really weird. So, yeah, there's, like, a few oddities with the thing, and, like, Tara, you were saying the sound effect thing was just, like, kind of a thing that, like, was happening in those movies for a while.
Yeah, and, like, from what I can remember, I haven't watched a Bollywood film in a very long time, but, from what I can remember, like, the added sound effects and stuff like that, like, overlaid, kind of was a thing for some reason. Like, sometimes I guess you couldn't tell that there was a punch that happened. So, the fight scenes in Bollywood movies in general can be kind of outrageous.
So I guess, if anything, these were kind of toned down.
Yeah, these were pretty toned down in comparison to,
At least these were believable.
Yeah, more believable.
There's, like, things where sometimes a guy, like, throws 10 people, like, flips a car or something. It's really...
Yeah. But besides that stuff, I mean, I guess, like, my overall enjoyment of this just comes down to, like, do I think the story and characters are interesting, and do I like them, right? And my basic, like, Alex, that is just that they're fine. I don't really have a particularly, like, feeling for anyone, really. But, you know, they're not bad. They serve the function of the story. I do like how they don't portray, like, either, you know, Jalal or Jodhaa as, like, you know, one of them's, like, kind of the bad one that needs to be saved or something, right?
Yeah.
Yeah.
So, because they're both, like, you know, like, they both keep their religion, and they both also, like, even if they keep their religion, they still sort of, like, respect the customs, though. Like, if you notice, Jodhaa kind of, when she's, like, like, meeting people, she does, like, the kind of, like, bowing kind of curtsy thingy, which, like, that isn't, like, Islam thing that they show, and then, like, when Jalal goes to, like, her house later, he, like, gets, like, the thing on the forehead or whatever. You know what I mean? So, like, it's like, okay. Even though they don't believe it, they still are like, you know, okay, fine, I'll, you know, do the thing or whatever. And it's like, okay.
Yeah.
Yeah.
So.
Her house.
We don't
Big
have
house.
a very, very, very big house.
Yeah.
But, yeah, you don't have the American stare. Because I feel like if this was, like, a Hollywood film, there would be, like, more over the dramatic, like, oh, we hate each other and everything, and then there'd be, like, some point in the film where it's like, oh, never mind, we love each other and everything.
Mm-hmm. Be more dramatic.
Yeah, it would be way more dramatic, and, like, the whole scene where, like, even though there was a scene where there was a disagreement, it kind of made sense in the narrative, I guess.
It wasn't, I mean, it was, like, not technically either of their faults. It was a third party's fault.
Yeah.
And that was wrapped up very quickly.
Yeah, it wrapped up very quickly, because I feel like in a Hollywood film that would have been the climax moment right there. Or no,
that wouldn't have been the climax, but it would have been, like, right before. Basically, that's like, you know, that happened, and that was like, oh my god, the big dramatic twist, and then we're gonna mope about it for 30 minutes, and then it's the climax, and we make up, and everything's happy, and it's like, so this is like, okay, this is the thing. Oh wait, it was a mistake. Okay, and then it's like, there's an hour more of the movie. It's like, all right. So.
Yeah.
Get it over with in the middle.
Yeah.
So I'm not very well versed in Indian history, like. So I'm not going to say what was accurate, what was not accurate, and stuff like that. But from what the movie also kind of admitted to, it's not exactly known if she ever existed, like Jodhaa Akbar. So
yeah, or like either that she hasn't existed, or that like. It's someone who did exist, but, like, in a different context, like, they married someone else, or, like, yeah. So, that's just kind of the thing where it's, like, not really sure. So, in terms of, like, the validity of this story, it seems like this story as a whole seems to just be kind of, like, a story.
So, it's just a story.
Yeah.
It's more of, like, rather than taking it as historical fact, it's kind of like a legend, I guess.
Yeah,
I guess, legend is a good way to put it.
Yeah, so there's that, and then, I do think it was, kind of interesting to hear that, like, in the beginning where she's like not sure about everything. You know, he goes up to her and is like, you know, in Islam, like the wife could totally like get divorced, and it's like, oh, because you know that's probably what a lot of people don't think about right now, especially for is Muslim people right now. But it is like interesting because so much of like world history that's taught in like the US, like especially like, you know, from fall of Roman Empire to Renaissance, basically is all just like, you know, all that I remember really was like, you know, Europe sucks, and then like Japan's doing a thing, and like the Mayans or Incas or whatever, and the Mayans were earlier, the Incas were doing stuff or whatever. And it's like, that's kind of it. Like, no one ever really talked about anything else. And it's like, you know, like, the Islamic world in, like, that time was, like...
It was booming.
Yeah, it
was booming.
It was sort of like it was, like, you know, the whole...
Yeah, I mean, it kind of makes me mad a little bit, because I don't even know that much about what was going on. And, like, the fact that I'm saying that I don't know what was going on in India and stuff like that, that's kind of sad, all things considered.
Yeah, because, like, the whole Islamic world, again, extending all to India, like, during that time, you know, I mean, basically, think about how, like, the Greeks, you know, the Greeks are known for, like, oh, this age of philosophy and science and expansion of empire. It's like, that kind of happened, like, again, you know, over there, and, like, nobody ever really talks about it. Like maths and sciences. Yeah, and just an expansion of, like, you know, an empire, and, like, even as a political entity, it's still kind of similar or whatever. I mean, okay, it's not like one group controlled all of the Middle East and India. That didn't happen. But you know what I mean? It's that same expansion set and like in terms of like a big stage power. Yeah. So also, I totally forgot until watching this that like you can totally call India Hindustan. I totally forgot that's a thing. Yeah. I looked it up and apparently that like it's sometimes it is used to just like apparently it says that southern Indians sometimes use it to describe northern India. As like a way of separating the two, but a lot of times they just say it's the whole thing. So, and I was like, oh yeah, Stan like kind of just means like land, basically. Yeah. So
it's like land of Hindu.
Yeah,
basically.
land of the Hindus, because they mention also the Afghans and the Uzbeks, and it's like, yeah, Afghanistan is the land of the Afghans, and Uzbekistan is the land of the Uzbeks, and it's like, okay, you know, so.
Yeah, they kept things nice and clean and simple.
Yeah, very simple. Yeah, so the history stuff, you know, and again, the scale of that and how it showed that with the, again, I don't know, again, like we said, we don't know the validity of the culture and stuff, but at least it doesn't seem obviously offensive or anything, right? So, it's not like and again, like what I was thinking of when I was thinking about like, you know, one side being portrayed as bad, it's not like Pocahontas or something, where it's like, look at these savage, like, Hindus or whatever, it's like, no, right? So, yeah, it doesn't do that.
It's not like Indiana Jones 2. Oh god.
What, you don't have that kind of that banquet that you have or whatever with like the pig's head or something?
Monkey brains. I'm sorry to disappoint you.
I was really looking forward to it when I came to visit and I didn't get it.
You'll just have to get it airmailed, I'm sorry.
But I can't get it mailed now.
No, man.
I should point out too that so technically speaking, I'm like, my family's from South India, so it had little. So this movie has little to do with like what happened over down there, because a lot of the places where I was like, I kind of recognize some of these places, but on the other hand, I don't really recognize a lot of these places. Mm-hmm. And then we looked at a map, and I was like, "Oh, that's they're all in North India."
Yeah, mostly like Northwest India.
Yeah, Northwest India.
But I mean, you know, the Mughals like came from over there, so I guess it makes sense.
Yeah, it makes sense.
Yeah.
And then during the food scene, I was like, "Do I recognize any of these dishes?" And I recognized one.
Okay.
Just the whole. Like, oh hey, I know what that is.
I'm just like, I see colored powder. That's an Indian thing. That's all. Don't know anything else.
Yeah.
So
Yeah, it was kind of interesting. It was also interesting because I think, at least majorly in like American, like Hollywood and stuff, well, you primarily see like European history and
Yeah.
stuff like that. So
yeah,
it's interesting seeing like a different country's portrayal of their own history
Mhm.
and stuff like
Yeah.
that. Like we saw it with China too, with the Mulan film, but it was also interesting seeing for India too.
Yeah.
yeah, especially like because again, the whole point of it is I mean India. I mean even after Pakistan and Bangladesh became a thing, like India still has a lot of Muslims in it, right? So like
Yeah.
it's interesting to see how they put together something that was supposedly, hey, look, bringing us together, you know what I mean? It's sort of like that kind of sense. It's like, okay, because usually we see in America it's always like, I don't know, like white person and a black person, right? So
Yeah.
Yeah.
it's kind of the opposite end of that. Well, not opposite, but different.
Yeah.
Yeah. So
But yeah, the one thing I was going to bring up was like the use of like elephants and camels and stuff like that. Like those are things you would never see otherwise. But it was interesting seeing how like they used like those kinds of things, and then the types of swords and like armor and whatnot. Instead of like
pretty.
yes, the what?
The clothes.
Yes, the clothes are really pretty. The jewelry also looked ridiculously heavy.
Yikes.
Yeah.
So I don't know. To me, it's like as the movie elements of it, like the story characters, that kind of stuff, like were fine. Like the set and the scale of everything was good, and the history was interesting, and like the Bollywood-isms or whatever, if you even want to call it, there kind of weren't really much. And what little one there was in terms of like the editing and stuff, like it wasn't really. It was something to notice, but it's not like, oh my god, this is weird now, So
it wasn't like you get blasted to like the middle of the tundra or something.
Not diegetic at all.
Yeah, so I don't know. To me, my impression was like, it was fine. That's kind of my attitude for it, which I guess is better than I expect. But
you did not suffer.
Yeah, no. Would I necessarily say like, oh, someone else should watch this? Like, I don't know. I mean, if you happen to be curious, then I'd say like, I'd as well. But like, I wouldn't say like, hey, you didn't want to watch this movie, now you should. Like, I mean, so that's kind of my attitude.
Yeah. I feel like it's like it's on Netflix, so if anyone's
it's easy to access, at least.
Yeah.
And also, since it's on Netflix, you can very easily, watch it over multiple days. So.
Yeah, which I think even for the first time I saw it, we watched it over a number of days. So yes, it's acceptable.
Yeah. I do wonder, like, if I was forced to watch this over, like, one sitting, like, would that change my opinion that much? I don't know, actually.
I don't know either.
But I'm not gonna test it out.
No. I guess with that, we'll go into ratings. Does anyone else have anything else to say?
I don't think so.
Yeah, the jewelry and the clothing and everything and the set design really, like, that was something that I had always remembered, and it stuck with me, so I'm really happy that you guys also liked it too.
I guess, like, I've kind of consolidated, like, what the numbers mean for me. So, for example, my sense of it is an 8 is a movie that I'm glad I saw and I would be down to see again. Okay? A 7 is a movie where I was like, glad I saw it. I might, say, hey, if you might be interested in checking it out. But would I see it again? Probably not. A 6 is something that I wouldn't say I like regretted seeing, but would I like necessarily like recommend to other people? Not really. So, kind of with that in mind, I am going to give it a 6.
Okay.
So, it just comes down to like, not like a super low 6. Again, it's just that I don't find, again, the story and characters are just kind of there and not particularly interesting. And there wasn't anything in it that was like, whoa, this part's really engaging or something. So, but it's fine for what it was, right? So, that's kind of my sense, is that it's fine, and 6 is the fine number. So, I guess that's how I see it.
I think, for me, well, I mean, I did see it again, so...
That's
true. Second viewing.
Yeah. So, for me, I'm gonna give it a 7. Because it's... I mean, I'm happy I saw it again. It might be a little bit before I see it a third time, but... overall, I mean, it was... I put it on the list for a reason, so...
Yeah.
And you don't feel like, you're, regret that decision, so...
No, I don't regret that decision, so...
I think I kind of had a number, in my head, so I'll probably just go with it. I'll probably also give it a 7. I think, I guess the fact that even though at first, the main couple, they kind of don't get along, it's not in an annoying way, so...
Yeah.
I can agree, yeah.
It makes sense why they come together later. It's because, they finally understand each other, they put their differences aside. Normal functioning human beings.
Yeah, there's no,
Hollywood.
Yeah, there's no bullshit, the only, misunderstanding is one that was specifically caused to be a misunderstanding. So, yeah.
And it was wrapped up very quickly.
Yeah.
I appreciated when, his mom was apologizing and admitting your mistakes kind of deepens your relationship.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Hollywood.
Fucking Hollywood.
That's fair.
As opposed to, oh, we're totally a couple now. Next movie. Yeah, we divorced.
Which movie did that happen with? I don't remember. That happened at some point during the challenge.
It happened a couple of times. I think in Jurassic Park it happened or something.
Oh, no, it was Jurassic World.
Oh, yeah.
Yeah.
Did it happen with, what's it called? Taken?
Yeah. I don't remember. They might have already been split from the first movie.
I think they were already divorced, yeah.
But it was
they were divorced, but then they were kind of rekindling their relationship, and then she dies.
Yeah.
Well,
I don't know if Die Hard you can even technically consider it an example.
I don't think so.
I don't remember.
Yeah.
I mean, we didn't watch Die Hard 2 yet, so...
That's true.
Can't say yet? I don't know.
Alright, well, there is only one more movie left. So...
of this set. But before that, you have to say what you added in.
Oh yeah, right.
Oh, yeah.
Okay, so... Okay, this requires an explanation, which is that... Because I don't think I normally would have picked this film. So, me and Mai were watching, some movie critic videos and stuff like that.
Oh, by the way, watch Cosmonaut Variety Hour. He's a great channel.
Yes. So, we were watching, his videos and everything, and he did a thing on, The Amazing Spider-Man. And I had seen The Amazing Spider-Man in theaters, when it had come out, but I don't remember that much of it to remember what my opinion is of it. So, apparently there's, this is the first movie. The second movie, I think everyone kind of agrees sucks, but the first movie, it's there's, one half where there's some people who are yeah, it was not terrible. It's not terrible, and it has some of its flaws, but overall it's not terrible. And then there's people that are saying that it's a terrible movie. And I was I don't remember enough of the movie to have an opinion of it, to know where I fall in this spectrum. So I was why not? Let's try rewatching it. Well, I guess for me rewatching it, but I don't think either of you have seen it.
Nope.
No.
So...
I am curious, actually, what I will... think about it. I
am too, honestly.
And I have actually a similar movie that for myself that kind of fits what Tara you were saying, which I'll probably put on the list later. But yeah, so
Because, like, Nostalgic Critic did a video on, like, The Amazing Spider-Man 2, and he didn't hate the movie, and then Cosmonaut hated the movie. So it was like, where do I fall?
Mm-hmm.
I'm mostly curious to see, like, how, like, Andrew Garfield's Peter Parker / Spider-Man falls between Tom Holland and Tobey Maguire, and, like, I want to kind of gauge which one...
We already know which one's your baby.
Yes, Tom Holland is definitely the Spider-Man, but between the other two, I want to see which one I dislike more.
Yeah,
So we'll see.
Yes, and we'll see when we get to that. But for now, in this last set that we have, the remaining film is Iron Sky.
Which I have no idea what to exactly expect from this.
I don't
Except
either.
an Iron Sky, I guess.
So you two know nothing.
So,
All I know is that you've always wanted me to watch this, but I always put it off, but now I guess I can't escape it.
Good.
is it a foreign film or was it released in theaters?
Isn't it a parody?
It's who was the original? I think actually the original. I think like Finnish people actually made it, but it's English. So
Oh,
yeah. Did it have a theatrical release? I'm not sure if it actually had a full theatrical release, but I don't want. If you don't know what this movie is, do not look it up at all. Like, do not look anything up about it. Just watch it. It's best if you know nothing.
Oh no.
Not even the base
is that
premise.
how you went into this movie?
I was told the base premise, and I don't think that like ruined the movie or anything. I'm watching. I have seen this movie twice, I think.
Yeah, I was gonna ask how many times have you watched it?
Yeah. So there's even knowing the premise, but like the base premise, I don't even like. I kind of want to say the base premise because by saying the base premise, like there are some people who'll be like, "The hell, I want to see this now." But there's also, especially for you two, like, I want you to just realize, oh, this is what this is about. Okay, so like, I don't know. It's very strange. I think in a good way.
Oh, okay.
And I will also say that there is a sequel, and the sequel is on Netflix. So I'm tempted to go watch that. Like, after we watch this, I'll probably go watch the sequel on Netflix.
Oh my god.
I've seen some trailers and clips of the sequel, and it seems to be even more ridiculous. So, yeah. So,
Yay.
Next week, get ready for
Iron Sky.
a reckoning.
Yeah, I guess.
Woo.
Oh, I'm so excited.
Bye.
Bye.